Hello, my name is Waylon Lewis, and every week we'll bring you a new podcast with Elephant Journal. Hey friends, this is Waylon Lewis from Elephant yet again. I'm glad you never get tired of me. And I am here with my old friend. We've talked for exactly one other time. Is it Rachelle? I can't even remember, but she's amazing. And we're going to talk about all my dumb questions. So it's going to be incredibly long. Yeah. Hey, you.
Hi.
All right. I think we did it.
We did.
All right. So we got Gold Coast, Australia. We got Indianapolis. We got Kingsport, Tennessee, Virginia. Is it Rachelle? I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, it's Rachelle.
Okay, good. I'm just awful. Who gave me
I get all versions of it, but that's the correct version.
Great. Well, I'm glad I lucked out. New Zealand, India. We got Cadiz in Spain. That sounds lovely. Hopefully you're not having a heat wave. Ontario, Canada, Chesapeake, Virginia. And Rachelle, where are you?
Brooklyn.
I think I won. Yeah. You're way too cool to not be in Brooklyn. So when we were talking about, I think you were talking with Molly, who I work with, what we wanted to focus on this time. I think we had such a good time last time. I was so perceptive and insightful, so we decided to do another video.
Exactly. I couldn't resist.
In reality, obviously, you're incredibly knowledgeable about what you do, and I'm just wildly ignorant. So thank you for coming back.
My pleasure. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Great. So what do you do, and how do you not get tired of explaining stuff that you know in depth in a relatively accessible way?
Oh, I like that. I have not been asked that yet. That's a great question, because I have been doing this for a while now. So I'm an herbalist, which is the simplistic description of what I do. I mean, herbalism is a wide and varied field. It's really holistic, plant-based well-being. And, for me personally, that has meant private practice, cafe apothecary. Now it's lots of education, lots of content, lots of collaborations with different companies and organizations and businesses, in New York and beyond.
And you're an entrepreneur. This is your company, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I have a couple of companies. One is kind of the education arm of things, and the other is our product company. And, I just sum it up as I teach people how to be healthier with plants. So that's
a good, accessible way to put it. And so, we kind of went through this in the pandemic. Like, Elephant is all about healthy living and being active and, organic foods, and we hate plastic and all that. But it gets more complicated when you get into the issues. Are you into like Western medicine and herbalism being complementary in appropriate ways, or how do you look at that relationship?
Yeah, totally. So I am hopeful that the future includes one in which Western medicine can be inclusive of herbalism, or vice versa, but that there's just a better balance, because there are definitely times and places where we need medication, we need surgery, we need, the blunter instrument that Western medicine often is, but there's so much that herbalism can do in preventative care that'll lessen the burden on the healthcare system. It's more accessible, it's more affordable. It's the whole lifestyle, that's available up until the point where we, break something in our brain or our body, and we need something else. So I would like to see them, work together. And in some places they do much better than, here in the States. So it's possible. And, I think that's where we're headed. I hope.
Yeah, it seems like, it's a troubled relationship, but also can be incredibly fruitful relationship in that both traditions can be condescending about the other.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
But then when we get a little bit common sense or humble, it just seems efficacious, to use a good Scrabble word, to use them appropriately together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do agree.
And so with my earlier question, I mean, I've really admired, you know, this is kind of what I do for a living, is a lot of social media and writing and communication and all that. It's endless. And, you know, I've really admired, you seem to have, do a lot of social media and communication with the public about something that can be confusing and intimidating.
Yeah.
Speaking personally. So how do you, you know, continue to find joy in what you're doing, not as an herbalist, but as a sort of herbalist educator?
Yeah, that's true. And that you reminded me that I didn't answer the other part of that first question, which is,
well, I interrupted you.
Yeah. How do I, okay. You know, I think that the joy comes from a lot of different angles. You know, I think one enormous source of joy and motivation and inspiration is just seeing it change people's lives, and it does very, very, very consistently. So, you know, there may not be anything more motivating than that, you know, and it just takes one person, a little bit of feedback, and it's really incredible. It's really humbling. And, you know, the other thing that I think is really fueling this fire is that I'm really aligned with what I personally enjoy. And, you know, I love to study this. I was doing this before it was my business. I will do it in my free time. Like, this is my work, you know, and there's more to come that expands on herbalism and beyond herbalism. But, you know, as my brother likes to say, I'm operating in my flow, you know, and when we're doing that, there's very little resistance. Yeah, sometimes I get tired, but,
yeah.
You know, I think the other thing that's helpful is, you know, as like from an entrepreneurial perspective, you know, as we grow, there's opportunity to work with other people to do different parts of the business that maybe aren't, you know, in my flow or what I'm best suited to do even. So it's no longer just me. And that really helps us communicate a lot across a lot of different platforms, like you mentioned. So
yeah, there's a lot there, but I love the in the flow, the way you put that, because you know, it's similar for, I think, any entrepreneur who starts a company that is actually aligned with your interest and your values, as opposed to just a money-making kind of gambit. And that is infinitely fulfilling. Like, I get to write about my deep feelings, or I get to write about, you know, abortion rights, or, you know, every single day there's a different challenge or different, it never gets old, ever. And it's always something I directly care about. So let's talk about those questions, those simple little questions. So there's a lot of stuff out there, right? This is capitalism. The second anyone ever figures out anything can make $1, there's going to be 8,000 products and offerings. You know, we've gone through at Elephant particularly, because we have sales team, we go through like the CBD gold rush, like every few years, it's like something else. And we try to vet and, you know, only work with quality that is good for people. But your first question that you suggested was how to determine good quality products. So let's say, you know, some, you know, idiot walks into a shop. I don't know where your stuff is sold, but like Sephora or something. How do I know what's quality and what's not?
Yeah. It's a huge question, but it's a very popular and important one. And it's challenging, I think, as a consumer, depending on your level of understanding of this stuff. So the first thing that I like to recommend is to consider the criteria that you might apply to your food. You know, is organic absolutely essential to you? Is local essential to you? Is fair trade? Do you need to know the supply chain and the source? Like, what element of your food or another consumption habit that might be equivalent, what criteria do you apply there that can almost positively be applied to your herbal products? And then you can shop from a sort of value standpoint. And I like to offer that because it's not as helpful for me to say that every herbal product you buy has to be organic, because then it's, you know, sometimes not accessible, and accessibility is really important.
You mean the price, obviously.
Yes, exactly, the price. And, you know, but a point, so I'm working with an organization right now, and hopefully we'll be able to share some more information for shoppers in terms of how to evaluate, herbal products, like, little checklist sort of thing. It's going to be a better value, so it might be a cheaper product because it's not organic or it's not fair trade or something like that, but you're probably getting a lesser quality product too. So when you're able to buy into, these important criteria, then you're most likely getting a better value. It's a better bang for your buck. So it really is worth that, not just buying the cheapest thing because it's the cheapest thing, but again, kind of do the best that you can with what you have access to.
Here's a specific little nugget of a question
in
line with that. So we did a bunch of articles, talk about fads and health, about turmeric. And then, someone, this was a couple years ago, and then someone who knew what they were talking about, someone like you, said, turmeric is one of these root, I don't know what it is, root things that absorbs toxins from the earth, like sunflowers and whatever. It actually can be used to remediate the soil. So it's incredibly vital that you're getting organic turmeric, or you're actually ingesting all this stuff that it's absorbed. Is that kind of thing true? And are there other cases of that?
There are other cases of that. I mean, the first one that comes to mind is mushrooms. It's really important what sort of soil or tree, in the case of some mushrooms, they're grown on. So, but it's also true of most everything that we eat or drink. I mean, eat, so to varying degrees, maybe it's like, one is going to be especially effective at, absorbing good or bad molecules from the soil. But it's true pretty much across the board, So that kind of goes back to, like, if you can afford it, it's worth it, because otherwise, you may be consuming things that are, counteracting the benefits or offsetting it a bit.
Yeah, on Elephant, we have a ton of articles. This isn't quite herbalism, but it's related about, like, if you only have, if you're limited in means, obviously there's the conversation about privilege, but if you're limited in means, these are the vital things, in terms of food at least, to get organic, because often they have skin. So often, those absorb the most toxins that, so there is a way to be, like, discerning and choosy about it if your budget's limited, but point taken. So look at your values and then look for that in the offerings, the products.
And it may be helpful to mention, I don't think I've shared this idea before, but it's kind of coming to mind, if you're limited in means, prioritize the like a higher quality, lesser, like, buy less, better quality, buy less products, focus on the ones that really matter, get amazing turmeric, get really good, mushrooms, and eat your greens, something like that, as opposed to buying the latest thing that says adaptogens on it.
Because there's so many cases where you're like, oh, I'm going to do this latest thing that says adaptogens on it, some trend or fad, and you think you're being helpful to yourself, but you're actually ingesting kind of nasty stuff.
That can happen. Definitely. Yeah. There's so much out there.
You're distributing, like, your company is distributing a product. It's not local per se. So how do you try to, like, I know your own ethics must be, like, super high for your own consumption or your own use. How do you then carry that into, like, a business where often compromise and shipping and all that shelf stability is, like, reality?
Yeah, well, sometimes there are certain compromises that, can be made, or that I would make to make a product. For example, if I didn't compromise on anything, then the product would be absurdly expensive. Absurdly, like, just unrealistic. But there are certain things that, like, we won't compromise on. So sometimes it means dropping out an ingredient, and I might want 12 and I have to work with 8 or 4 or 6 or something, because having all of them at this great quality is not possible. Things like that. So there are boundaries that, I think I'm not willing to cross. And it varies business to business, you know. And as you mentioned, I think the larger you get as a, I don't know, I don't want to say that though. You know, I was going to say the larger you get as a business, you know, maybe more compromises are made before scale and that sort of thing. But there are amazing companies that, you know, that don't compromise. So
yeah, I love that you said that, because it's sort of an excuse. I've worked with a ton of companies in the natural products industry, and some, very few, have a lot of integrity.
Yeah.
And, you know, some of those are big.
Yeah.
And then, you know, most are just kind of trying to succeed.
Yeah.
And market, basically.
Yeah. You know, and I find that a lot of the compromises that are made in the trendy product space are made unknowingly as well. The businesses that are selling the products don't realize, they don't know, you know, they don't realize that they're mismarketing adaptogens. They don't realize that they're, you know, that it's not accurate. And then the ones with real integrity often have, you know, great herbalists at the helm, or a lot of years of a lot of, you know, decades of experience,
right,
and care and do the work. It's harder, you know, and they've gotten there. So there's it's a whole spectrum.
So including your own, I'm going to hope and assume. And what are a few of your favorite companies that you think people should like go out and support?
You know, the first one that comes to mind in terms of just such a history of beautiful herbal products is Herb Farm. Okay. They're wonderful. You know, it's been 40, maybe 50 years, and they grow a lot of their own herbs. It's, you know, liquid extracts. There's a lot of information on their website. Really, really well done. Gaia does a great job. I use a lot of Gaia products professionally. Yeah.
Cool. I'm writing those down right now.
Yeah.
And then what's your company? Tell us about your company.
Of course, my company.
Yeah.
So my product company is Herbals, HRBLS, and we do herbal gummies. We have 3 right now. They look like this. I'll show you. And we're about to launch some new ones, so that'll be fun.
Nice.
With these little herbal gummy packs, cute. And yeah, they are cute. Thanks.
Yeah, you have great. I love your style. Love it.
Thanks. It's a very fun part of, I love doing I love the packaging process. We're designing new packaging right now for the next SKUs, and it's just so fun. That's where the fashion, you know, comes in for me. That just the creative direction of it, the visual.
Yeah, I'm obsessed. I don't have your style, but I do have some, and I love environmental integrity. So like when I designed my book, working with the printer, when I designed, we're now doing a card set in the box just today. So seeing yours is cool. You know, making it gorgeous and elegant and fun and eco is just so fun.
Yeah.
So wonderful. And you were continuing, I think.
Oh, I was just going to say that, there's so many companies that I could mention, but I think, I think let's just leave it at those for now, probably.
That sounds great.
I mean, awesome. Mountain Rose Herbs, like, you know, can't beat them. They're great.
Okay.
Cool.
I hope everyone is, I'm literally writing them down myself. I have no idea what I'm doing. We used to have this amazing pharmacy here in Boulder called Pharmakon.
Yeah.
And then they got bought, and then they got put out of business. So now we're just kind of like, it's really sad. So now we're kind of like, we don't have guidance. Wow. Like literally, you probably know Brigitte Mars. You would walk into Pharmaca, and Brigitte Mars, this like famous herbalist, like practically like a modern witch of wisdom, you know, would just be in there giving you advice. So
I feel like in Boulder, you've got to have options.
I know.
In Seattle.
I know, it's nuts. Our community is definitely very sad about that. So we've talked a bit about what to look for when buying herbs, I guess, you know, to kind of your values, and clean and getting less is more if you have to make choices around budget. Right. So common kitchen medicines, what do you keep on your kitchen shelves that maybe all of us should think about?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one is, you know, you said it with turmeric. That's just that's an awesome, you know, often used as a spice, but just to have that in the kitchen is great. Ginger, always in stock. You can do fresh ginger. You can do dried ginger. I love to do fresh ginger and then just make it into a concentrate, and you have, you know, shots whenever you want. Ginger shots.
Ginger, I don't know what it is. My mom grew up, you know, cooking lots of stir fries with ginger. Ginger is like my happy place. It's my favorite. And when I'm sick, having ginger kind of tea with other stuff, heaven.
Yeah, it's hard to overdo that one, you know, really, really great. Cinnamon, I think, is another awesome one. Cinnamon is great for digestion.
Okay.
Love it for that. And then, you know, I think fresh herbs are kind of overlooked often, you know, at the grocery store or the farmer's market. Mint and basil and sage and thyme and rosemary and all those things, they're pretty much always around. And those are herbs, you know, they're culinary, but they are very, very functional. Even, you know, having a few in a salad, you can make tea with them, just eat them, you know, whatever you want to do, put them in your smoothie or something. Always good. Yeah.
Dumb question. Yeah. Yes, Waylon, dumb question. The dumb question guy. So is it bad, like with basil, you know, I think of like pasta or something. Is it bad to cook this stuff?
It's not bad. So if you think about, I mean, if you're gonna make tea with basil, you know, you're somewhat cooking it, right?
Right.
It depends. So different plants and different vegetables are more or less negatively affected by heat. So it depends. You know, with basil, I mean, if you're making like I'm just thinking of like a pesto, where you're making some kind of sauce with it. Like, you could retain the rawness of it, right, and process it without cooking it.
Yeah.
But generally, I would say it's not bad, and it's far better to cook it and eat it than to not even eat it, because you're like, oh, you know, I've got to cook it, so it's not worth it, you know?
Thanks for listening. Hope you're getting a lot out of it. The full conversation is on our indie platform that supports and continues our work, elephantjournal.com/videos. You can subscribe, listen, watch, and participate there. And when you do so, you'll keep these mindful videos and podcasts going. elephantjournal.com/videos. May it be of benefit.